Hello, and thank you for joining me again today in Vicky's Parlor. Today we're going to talk about a topic that's dear to my heart, and it's called the voter ID issue. And I have a bone to pick with the lamestream media, who tends to show only one side of the so-called issue and tends to continue to build the so-called demographic group of people who would be disenfranchised. And I also have a very special guest with me today, Andrew Richter. I've asked him to join us because Mr. Richter is very good at ferreting out facts, and he's going to be contributing, providing a little neutrality today. And how are you, Andrew?
Couldn't be better.
All right.
Except when I hear people talk about voter ID, sometimes that puts me in a bad mood.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I just don't understand all the lies, really, that say that people of certain groups can't get a voter ID. Now, for years it's been the seniors, the immigrants, the, I don't know, different groups of people, but they've added college students and the military. Two groups of people that I know have IDs, so what's the problem?
Well, it didn't work. They didn't scare enough people with the one group, so they have to keep adding to try to get them all on their side, I think is what's going on.
Because some of those groups aren't buying into it. We're going to be showing a series of clips today to sort of bolster. What I did was I've called out to people and asked them, if you're feeling disenfranchised, would you contact me and we'll figure out why and get to the bottom of it. I haven't gotten any responses, but I did attend a League of Women Voters propaganda party to see if there was something I'm missing, something that, you know, they can present to help me be more understanding, and what I found was, quite frankly, a load of BS. I never found them once to back up their silly claims. Let's look at this first clip.
College students, minority groups, and low-income citizens. Citizens who have lost their homes due to the housing crisis. These citizens are less likely to have a valid photo ID, especially with their current address on it. Minnesota's election system is one of the best in the country. Showing a photo ID is unnecessary because Minnesota's election system is sound.
The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. By the time the Women's 19th Amendment was passed, 30 states allowed women to vote, but not all states. So that was why it was essential that it be done at the federal level. The National Woman Suffrage Association was founded in the late 1860s by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. At the same time, the American...
I'm astounded. Really? Sex? I didn't see sex in that demographic group. I didn't know women were one of the oppressed groups. Trouting out the suffrage movement from the 1860s? Come on, that's desperation.
Well, I think it's, you know, if I would add something, voter ID has nothing to do with suppressing someone's vote. I mean, you keep hearing that term. It's not about suppressing someone's vote. It's about making sure people are voting in the right precinct, making sure it's them, making sure, because there's a lot of other elections that are affected by voting. It might not, we talk about the presidential election, and that's kind of where voter ID started after the 2000 presidential election. But, you know, the idea, again, I think, is to create more victims, create the idea that a certain group's being targeted, and I think that's how they're trying to get the emotion out to get people on their side when scaring the blacks and the Hispanics didn't work.
And I heard the phrase today, democratic voter suppression. So now they've got it, you know, all the different groups roped into one, that apparently whoever's not Democrat is trying to oppress Democrats. What silliness. Let's take a look at the second clip that's just as silly.
In the early 50s, attempts had already been made to secure the right to vote, to secure, when I say secure it, what I mean is that we had the right to vote. We weren't allowed to exercise it. As Dr. King came into the movement, it was really critical to encourage people to take these terrible risks to vote. And they did. Sharecroppers, middle-class folks, poor folks, black folks took their lives in their hands to exercise the vote.
The civil rights movement of the 1950s. Again, can we get back in this century, please?
Well, and I would even add that, what they say, again, is contradictory. On the one hand, the lady says, empower blacks to go out and vote, to go out and register to vote, to go out and get involved. On the other hand, blacks are victims and they don't have IDs and they can't get to the polls. So which is it? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't be a victim and empower somebody. So...
And that one of the rags that I told you about that's promoting this nonsense went as far as to print a letter to the editor that said only like white Anglo men can vote and that blacks are discouraged from voting. And that's just nonsense. What about the Black Panthers, the last election, the last presidential election? Was it not the Black Panthers who stood on the steps of the courthouse in Pennsylvania,
I think, yeah,
with baseball bats intimidating white voters? So
yeah, and what if those were Ku Klux Klan members, suppressing black voters? It would have been a big story, covered everywhere. There'd have been legislation dealing with that. They'd have been demonized and whatever. But if it's Black Panthers doing it, well, then
none of the lamestream media actually showed that I know of. I found it on Fox News, one of the rare conservative.
It didn't lead the nightly news anytime.
It didn't.
No, I mean, it's hard between all the Viagra and hemorrhoid cream commercials to get in real news in the nightly news, isn't it?
It's true. Now, here's another mantra. Let's see clip 3.
Along with being costly to implement and completely unnecessary, these bills will deny the vote to United States citizens by adding to the difficulty of same-day registration and by requiring registered voters to provide a current government-issued photo ID, and they will exclude some very specific groups.
How does that rule out same-day registration? If you have an ID, you can register. What's the problem?
Well, and I'd add most states don't have same-day registration. It's actually the minority. I believe it's 28 states don't have it, 2 states do.
So we're behind.
So then voters are supposedly being suppressed everywhere, if that's the case. But you look at voter turnout, that really isn't true. And I would add something too, this idea that it's costly to implement. The same people who say it costs too much money to implement are the same people promoting light rail. They're the same people promoting sports stadiums, government funded. The same people, building regional trails and building signs that say "Welcome to Hennepin County" that are all totally unnecessary, yet ensuring that our elections are fair and just and correct. All of a sudden, they're worried about spending taxpayer money.
Right, and they don't mind spending our taxpayer money to make sure more and more people are on food stamps and more people get the free Obama so-called phones. None of that is costly and wasteful.
Solyndra.
Yeah, we could go on and on. We could do a whole nother 2-hour program about wasteful spending.
Yeah, and why doesn't the League of Women Voters do something on that for a change? Why don't they have a whole program on wasteful spending if you really want to waste our time with these Mickey Mouse videos? That would be a nice thing to put up.
Another thing is they claim to be bipartisan. That is so phony. There's no bipartisanship there whatsoever.
Oh, they've got a token person somewhere.
Oh, a token person that we've never seen.
Yeah, that's right. A closet one.
Okay, and waste of resources. Let's have a shot at that. Clip, please.
Requiring photo ID is not only an unnecessary waste of scarce public resources and another unfunded mandate upon local governments who are already struggling, it's a barrier that could result in countless Minnesotans being denied their right to vote.
Waste of resources. Can we talk about green bikes? Can we talk about, I was at the Urban League Family Day a couple weeks ago over in North Minneapolis, and they had rows and rows. There were probably 50 of those green bicycles, and not one person checked one out and rode it.